Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We're here with the one and only Mr. Alex Pare. We're going to be jumping into this conversation to find out whether Alex was out of his mind for investing a bunch of money into coaching or he got something out of it. And we're going to have a genuine conversation about this. And the purpose for these conversations in this new series on my podcast and YouTube is to help you understand, when do you need to get support and what kind of support you need to be looking for. And specifically, we're going to cover what coaching looks like, because a lot of people have misconceptions around what coaching actually is and what it does. And ultimately, for me, coaching is about creating results in your life. Coaching is about helping you move forward in different parts of your life, whether that's in your business or life, and getting you to look at your life in a much deeper and expansive way, which tends to change the quality of your life. It tends to change how you show up. It tends to change how you move forward in your life, how you take action. And I will shut up pretty soon and I'll let Alex go into this and I'll ask him some questions around it. First of all, thank you, Alex, for doing this. And thank you for taking the time to do this with me.
No problem. I appreciate it. Glad to have the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. And so I'll start off with this because I still remember I was actually in Europe. I was in Sweden when I had my first call with Alex. I was at my sister's place. And since my business is online, I can pretty much have those conversations anywhere. And I remember the first call with Alex, and I still remember the hesitation that he had. And I know that was partly that a lot of people will be hesitant, but he actually had a negative experience. So first of all, tell us like what got you to even think about coaching, and tell us about your negative experience before we go into the other direction.
I guess the need for coaching for me has always been there. I've always looked for someone or something out there to propel me further down the road quickly. So when I got in with my real estate with Rob Cleve, that was, the coaching was in there. So it came with the program. And, for me, a coach is someone that I can have an affinity with, someone, a connection with. So I guess when we first talked, we were far away and we just got into it, and it was very subtle, very calming, reassuring, on you understood what I had planned and what my difficulties were. And, just talking through things. It's not about, giving tasks to do, but it was good because, again, going back to my negative experience, I did have a coach in the past and it was very different. Life isn't all rainbows and unicorns. So in the coaching, there's good, you have bad experiences, not with the coach, but just in your life. And the coach is there to help you through that, guide you through that. So the coach that I had was always just, always, everything was happy-go-lucky. It was all good. And, I think he was there more of the financial gain than to helping people. And that came out in his coaching. And then one day we saw him on the news that he had defrauded, a couple hundred people up in the country where he was at. So that kind of ended it for me there. So yeah, I mean,
so you had a feeling around that, but then you saw it and then you,
it was just, that was my first real coach I had in business. And it was more of a business coach, so he was just having us do things that were very unconventional. You always get that gut feeling that it's like, wow, this is, things are meant to be scary at sometimes, where you move forward, you're not in your comfort zone. It is scary at times, but that coach had me and my wife on pins and needles all the time. Like, what are we doing? It was a lot of investment financially, and just the risks we were told to take were, for me, out of proportion. So we just had that gut feeling that something wasn't right. And, I was in that coaching program, my mother-in-law, my brother-in-law. So it all kind of exploded at the same time that, we saw him on the news, that it wasn't the right thing for sure.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And by the way, that could happen. That's why one of the things that I tell my clients is, or anybody I talk to, like, I don't feel, first of all, there are certain coaches that feel aligned with certain clients and vice versa. I think you need the right coach for yourself. I may or may not be the right coach for you. That's why whenever I connect with people, I want to understand what they're looking for, and I want to spend some time getting to know them and understand how I can support them. And I actually take them through an experience of coaching so they understand what I'm offering. And that's what I did with Alex on that first session. So I wanted him to see what the coaching is like with me, and then he can make a decision. And for me, I also run a mastermind where I train other coaches too. And we have hundreds of coaches and within the group. And coaches, most of them are well meaning. They will do their best, but not every coach is the same level of quality. Not every coach has done their work. Some coaches are starting off, some coaches are bringing up practices that have nothing to do with coaching. It's not a regulated industry, I would say. It's not an industry where there are certain standards. For example, if you are a therapist, there are certain standards you follow. Of course, there are good and bad therapists as well that you can get. Or if you're a lawyer, there are certain practices, industry practices. There are no industry practices per se. There are some loose foundational organizations that kind of give certifications to coaches. And then ultimately it's up to coaches to develop themselves, to build their skill set, to work on their craft. And I would say on the other side of it, I would say very few coaches are really in it for the craft. Yes, as part of their job, part of then takes it takes a certain type of person to really care about the craft of coaching. It's just like craft of any other profession is to really learn and really get feedback and really practice and really see what happens. And that's what we're trying to do actually in our mastermind is to help coaches go more towards the craft of coaching because money, finances, business, that's all a product of that. That's all an effect of that. And part of our vision is to really help build the industry as well. And it's a big vision. It's not easy to do. And bring it under like an umbrella of what are the foundations of coaching and how can we make it a little bit more standard while keeping the nuances of coaching because every coach will approach it differently. There's a lot of freedom there, but also understanding that there are certain foundational principles such as coaching is not about telling people what to do. It's more about getting people to discover what's truly important to them. And there's a lot of discovery that happens in there. And ultimately, I'm never telling Alex what to do. I'm getting him to find out what is important to him and where he can take action. And that comes from Alex. And I want him to go into that. So, by the way, in your experience, would you agree with, or would you say that I sit there and tell you what to do?
No. I agree with what you're saying for sure. And I guess that's why we connected so quickly with, my coach before and was totally opposite.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. Now, let me put it this way. Why do you keep putting money into coaching? Why do you keep, for me, it's an investment. I do too. But I'm like, do you have too much money?
No, definitely not.
So then what incentivizes you to invest in coaching consistently? I mean, you have been for the past couple of years now. We've been working together.
Yeah, the first again, coaching is throughout. I guess the world of coaching is it's not cheap, but I guess it's the commitment that comes with that. Why keep investing? When we first started, things progress a little slower. Well, for me, this is just my experience. So for me, they progress a little slower, and then there are just little nitbits that you're like, okay, well, this makes sense and that makes sense on things that we talk about, business life in general. And then at some point during the coaching, there you have one, I call it a revelation. So you just something clicks. So when that clicks for me, I'm like, oh, this is what it's about. This is what this road is all about here. This is the progress you see. And when people are around you, like my wife will say, wow, you're doing this now. You've never done this. You can see you're changing. So when your wife says you're changing, then I don't see it. I'm still the same guy on the first day we met, but apparently I'm not. So, that's when you're like, okay, well, this is working. It's a labor of love. It just keeps on going and growing and growing. And that's why I keep investing because I see the progress. Well, I'll take that back. I don't see it, but people around me see it. And then they come to me and like, well, there's something different about you. So that's for me is enough to keep going on this because I see, and I feel something different.
Yeah, and we'll go into what you see differently, but that's a really good point around usually, and this is very normal. Like if you have kids, you don't notice your kids growing as much until somebody else comes in and tells you like, "Oh, shoot, kid has gotten taller." It's like, really? I see him every day or her every day,
Yeah.
and like or with you because to whatever our normal is our experience. Like we are living the same thing every day, and as we're growing, we don't actually notice the internal growth until we start to get feedback from our environment. And feedback is really important in our life and professional life to see like what's happening. Our customers start to notice, for example, if you're in business, that your behavior has changed in business. Our spouse, our children start to notice that our behavior has changed. They start to connect with us differently. And a lot of coaching is, I would say it's an inner game. So as you start to shift what's happening inside, naturally it starts to show up in your external environment. And of course, there's the external component of taking action and staying committed to what matters to you, but it all comes from inside. So I want to kind of go make it a little bit more tangible. So as you started to, besides the fact that Helen told you that, hey, you're changing, which is good. That's a good sign. And Helen has been awesome. So I've started to do some sessions with Alex's wife as well. And I'm hoping that even those sessions once in a while help her kind of connect to the path that Alex is on, and I can see that it's starting to make a difference. So maybe we'll start with that. Did it has the coaching impacted how you approach your relationship with your wife and how you guys create your common vision as you move forward? And has that been helpful?
It's been helpful. It's been helpful to clarify my vision. It's been helpful to clarify a lot of things that are surrounding my life, my intimate surroundings. So yeah, it's been easier to discuss with her what my goals have become because clearly they've changed. So, and with her talking with you, we're getting on the same playing field. It's definitely helped.
Yeah. Awesome. And so what does that mean? So as you guys are on the same playing field, what does that mean in your day-to-day experience? What does that do for
Helps us as a team go in the same direction. We still, again, we're not one person. We have differences in goals and how to get there. But, at least if we both see the end goal or the big picture, that's where I like to be. So
yeah.
it's a work in progress.
Yeah. And what I've really appreciated about you and Helen is that I've always noticed that you guys have a really, really good relationship. And it's inspired me a lot too in my relationship. That's in terms of like how you connect with each other, how open you are, how you're more like friends from what I saw, what I've seen. You connect with each other very well. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, we're not typical. We definitely talk to each other like best friends sometimes, or like, you know, two company owners that bicker. So it's been we're married, we have kids, we own two businesses together. So we're together a lot in different roles. You know, on weekends, we're husband and wife. During the week, we're business partners. So it's hard sometimes.
And I mean, that's a great testament. The fact that you two can work with each other is huge because what I find, and this is really important for people to think about as they're thinking about any kind of support, is that we don't realize, especially in the Western world, people tend to live different lives even in the same home. Like, eh, to me, a lot of times as I've connected with my clients, that's why I had to bring in the couples coaching piece in it. And we haven't done a lot of that with you and Helen, just because in that pointing to that, and I always thought that you guys have a really good connection. It's just that there was a lack of clarity in terms of direction. So having those deeper conversations with you to help you clarify and get Helen to clarify what she needs to do, it automatically got you guys on the same page versus with other clients, I've had to do more couple sessions to get because there was a lot of heaviness, a lot of disconnection, a lot of lack of respect, and a lot of things that had built up over the years that it was very hard for them to make sense of. So we had to get on a call, literally both of them, to work through some of those things. So that's why I've started to go more towards that as well. And but with you guys, like I said, you have approached it you've had a really good relationship. You've been supportive towards each other. It was just more clarity that's needed. Now, on average, what I notice more is that people like couples live different lives. They live as if they're like more like roommates than they are in a relationship. They generally don't have a common vision. They just have an idea of where they're going. and they have an idea of where their finances are. They have an idea of where their children are to some degree. But if I really get them to sit down and ask them, what do you have a common vision for life beyond the day-to-day stuff that you're doing? And they don't. They completely live separate lives, and it tends to kind of separate them over time. They are not working on common things other than the fact that they have kids together or they're running a home together, which are big things. They're important things, but they don't. And a lot of times as we go deeper into it, they start to realize, holy shoot, am I even connected to this person? And a lot of my clients, they start to realize that when disconnection happens, when they start to not respect each other, when they start to not feel connected with each other, when they start to live completely different lives and it feels like they're not even together. But even if they haven't gone to those, and usually the way that shows up is they start to hear, well, I don't even know who you are. Well, they're actually telling the truth because they've lived under the same roof, but they haven't had enough connection points. There are couples that I know who will not see each other for months at a time. Like they will see each other, but they haven't connected with each other. Like they will see each other in passing a lot, like you will see anybody on, like if you had roommates, literally, you would see them. They're doing their own things, but haven't found out like what their life is about. How are they growing? How are they changing? And essentially, human beings change. Human, especially if you are ambitious, especially if the quality of your life matters to you, especially if you're running businesses, very likely that you're changing. And if the other person is not interested, partners aren't interested, more than likely the person that you know is in the past. It's not the current person. And I know you've changed a lot over the past couple of years. Like I would say every few months, there's a new version of you that's appearing.
I think so.
It's probably been hard for Helen to catch up, but and Helen's been eating too. So, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely you hit a point there that, I feel it. I've changed in the years that we've been together. And I think Helen, she is following suit because we have the same goals, same, we want to, it's just the way of getting there that we're trying to work on right now. I think we have the same, pretty much same end goal. It's just, you know, it's hard. It's not hard. It's just a little difficult, me being invested in coaching with you and her not as much, which is fine. But I bring up things sometimes just like, well, you're way ahead of me. I said, well, I know, that's why I'm telling you this. I am way ahead of you, but it's working. It's working. And I can definitely see, I know people, like you said, that don't see each other, don't talk. I mean, you know, I pay you for coaching, but I don't. Helen does. So, we're all one and we're just a team.
Yeah, and this is just so like if you're listening to this and you're considering, well, do I need some kind of support? And by the way, this is not a judgment because I've been in places where I've been completely disconnected in my own relationship. It's more about how can you be more honest with yourself? Because I get to this day, I get couples coaching, to be honest. To this day, I have multiple different coaches because I'm working on different parts of my life. I'm consistently growing. It's very, especially if you're growing and you're building things in your life, it's very hard to keep up even with yourself, let alone with other people. So you need somebody that helps you direct. And ultimately it helps you create the quality of life in your relationships, in your business, and who you are in terms of purpose and vision. And those things are important, especially if you have values around creating a purposeful life. You have values around creating a legacy for your kids, for your family, for your community. You have big goals. Those things will matter to you. If you're average person that's going about life, I just want to go to my job, come back, watch my TV, and just chill. That's your choice. That's fine. I completely understand that you might not be that interested. You're content in the way things are, and that's good. That's fine. That works for you. But what I'll urge you to think about is if you are somebody who's more motivated, somebody who wants to do bigger things, somebody who wants to create a different quality of life, somebody who wants to create more freedom, requires quite a bit of work. But a lot of that work is internal. And what we're trying to get to is even something that Alex shared is that a lot of times one person starts in a family. They go, whether that's based on their ambition, based on their growth, they jump in and they come across coaching or something like that, start to move ahead and they start to feel like, oh, my spouse, I'm feeling like they're falling behind. I feel like I'm growing, but they're not. And one of the things that I've learned, first of all, help my client to understand that everybody has their own growth pattern. Not everybody's ready for the kind of growth that you're on. That's why with my spouse or Alex's, they need to be ready for it. And a lot of times, especially when a husband or wife says, well, my wife or husband needs coaching, first of all, I need to know if they're getting the support before they get. And second, even with, for example, with Helen, I was open to having a conversation with her when I did, and she was open to it. And she's starting to get into that more, and she's starting to see that that's an important piece, even if it's less than you. And it might be that she might need less of, I don't know. But the point is that everybody has a different journey, and it starts with us taking responsibility for who we are. And then other people around us, they start to kind of move with us because we're modeling the way rather than telling them what to do. Would you agree with that, Alex?
For sure, 100%. We have to be ready, for coaching. The person has to be ready for it. I mean, I was definitely ready and wanting. Helen, when she did talk to you, was ready and open. I mean, if you're not open, if you're going there because you're forced to go, then it's not worth it. You have to be open to the conversation. And again, just to reiterate, you know, like you said earlier, the coaching happens inside the client. There's no directives, no things to do. There's things to read, but you're just a vehicle to make us realize what we need to do.
Yeah. It's not about me. Ultimately, the coaching, for me, it's that I need to help direct your thoughts towards what's important to you. What are your strengths? What is your potential? What are the things that truly matter to you? And a lot of that comes in the form of questions. It doesn't come in the form of me telling you what to do. I might share perspective. I might share experiences. I might share other things, but ultimately, it always comes down to you, because I'll always come back to you and say, well, what does that mean for you? Because you know your life much more than me. I don't live in your day-to-day life. And that's actually a challenge for a lot of coaches, because they might because after a while of working with somebody, you start to get to know the person. You might go in the illusion thinking that, oh, I know about my client, I should tell them what to do. And there are coaches who do that. And I consistently review these sessions, and I'm like, well, why did you feel like you could say that about their life? And as they talk about it, you can tell that they kind of start to feel like I could tell this person what to do just because I had seen a part of their life. We never know enough. Like, even if you think about your own life, it's very hard to even know what's happening. Like, I'm here, my wife is in the house with my kids. I don't know what the hell's going on all day, to be honest. If I go with the idea of like, let me tell you what to do, I need to be more open. I need to be more exploratory as to what's happening, because they have their own world. A lot of my time is spent here. Even that's just difficult, let alone somebody that you have never seen their life, you've never been around. And that's why I think coaching works very well, is that as coaches, we're not here to tell people what to do. We're here to help uh, people discover what is deep down within them. What are they trying to create? And ultimately, the underlying belief is that you have the potential to create what is important to you. It's just that the powerful mind and consciousness and soul that you have, you just need to use it the right way. And that comes from actually introspection, and that comes from committing to what matters to you. And so that is, and I'm also, like, part of our discussion is I'm also educating people about what coaching is. And ultimately, the only way for you to know what coaching is for you to jump on a call with somebody, with a coach. I know it can be nervous. I know it can be all that stuff, but get in touch with a coach, whether it's me or another coach. Just have a conversation. And ultimately, most coaches will offer a bonus session or discovery call, or at a low rate, to help you see the value of coaching. And if it is for you, great. If you can move ahead with that coach, if it is not, go find another coach for yourself. Because I think the investment makes a big difference. I want to go to the business side of things, because I know you have a couple of businesses. And for business owners, a lot of the times it's bottom line, what's happening, and also, is this impacting my business in a positive way? So, what would you say has been the impact of coaching on your business, or you moving forward in your business?
It helped with my stress management. Having multiple businesses is stressful as it is. And, it helped with mitigating stress, getting more organized, time management. These are all things that I still struggle with, but it definitely has been helpful in that area. Their words, it's a work in progress. So yeah, that definitely helped. And then just other than that, seeing the potential, again, like you said, you ask questions of us and it's like, well, I didn't know I could do that. I've done, as you know, a lot of things in these past couple of years that I'm like, I have set goals And I've met those goals. And now I'm at a point where I should have set a goal that was twice as big, So that's where our limiting beliefs bring us to. I've shared goals with you that I was like, oh my God, if I get this, I'm going to be so happy. And I'm here and I'm like, man, I need more. I need a bigger goal. So that it's definitely helped with that, just help grow in every aspect. You have to keep growing.
Well, you don't have to, you get to. You can make a choice.
Yeah. It's better. It's better. It feels better.
Yeah, of course. And it's interesting because there are people who are actually terrified of growth, to be honest. And it's very hard to, most people I work with, just like you, who are more ambitious, who are more driven. Not everybody's like that. Actually, that's a very small percentage of the world, I would say. Most people, they're looking for certainty. They're looking for comfort. Partially works for them. Partially it doesn't. At some point, and there was a time I was like that too, but at some point something clicked in. For me, it was a difficult life circumstance. For many people, that's the case when they hit a wall and they're like, oh, this is not meaningful for me anymore. Or they come across something completely new. But I would say a majority of people, they're not on that path. And for those who are on it, it feels normal. So if you're like, well, everybody should want that. Everybody is for that. That's, yeah, maybe ideally not everybody's ready for this kind of growth.
Yeah. I mean, so there is a certain level of fear in growth. There's a certain level of fear of being uncomfortable, but I've been uncomfortable for the past 2 years now. You get outside your comfort zone. I guess it's the way of looking at things. Growth is fun, but it's also scary. It's the unknown. And it's just dealing with that, which, you know, it's not that scary, but it's the unknown. And that's where we have people to help us guide us through that.
And I think we've gone through so many sessions where at the end I've asked you, like, what did you love about the session? And like, oh, I hated and loved this person. So
Well,
it's besides like, of course, it's uncomfortable. It's supposed to be uncomfortable because if coaching is just me just having a normal conversation with you, I mean, you might as well go have a conversation with somebody else. It's about challenging you to get out of your comfort zone because that's where your progress is. And so you mentioned a couple of things around your business that you got more organized. Of course, we're all on an ongoing journey around that. You got more organized, you got more focused around what matters, and you're able to deal with stress in a better way, which is a huge thing for business owners. Stress is a consistent companion for business owners. And there are two things in there. There's how we regulate our own system, and also the other side of it, what meaning do we assign to it? What is your favorite phrase around business?
it's only business. It's only business. And guess who taught me that?
You got many conversations around it. It's only business.
Oh man, yes. Many, many, many. That's for a whole different podcast, just around that saying.
We'll have a conversation around it. But the idea is that, I mean, it's a funny thing that it's only business, but every day there's ups and downs. It's not like when you were in, like you're going to a job. Yes, there are challenges and everything at a job too, but it's fairly consistent. Going there, doing your work, clocking in, clocking out, and coming back. And if you like that, that's good. But if you're going in business, you know that there's like this up and down. And if you
Oh
don't
yeah.
regulate that, and here's my theory around it. Most startups fail, like 90% of startups fail in the first 2 years. And statistically, that's true. That's probably one of the reasons why banks won't even loan you anything unless you've gone past the 2 year mark. And I don't think that's inherently business itself. I think it's how we process the stressors and how we make sense of it. And that second part, as you said, it's only business. We're associating a meaning that this is a normal part of business versus somebody else might look at it, holy shoot, something is off. I can't move forward in this direction. And that's very normal to happen for you. So a lot of people will quit because they see the challenges in business, but that business and also some of the most successful entrepreneurs I've talked to, after they make a certain amount of money, it stops becoming about money. It's about the challenge. It's about the challenge of growing something. It's about the challenge of learning this, the challenge growing in themselves. As much as people might think entrepreneurs care more about money, they actually don't. Because after a while, money stops becoming an issue once you learn how to create it. It
Mhm.
becomes more about, well, what's my next challenge here? How can I make a better process? How can I make a better product? How can I make a better service? How can I support my clients better? How can I create a bigger vision around this? And that's very important to understand as a business owner. And by the way, if you're a multifamily real estate investor or a real estate investor, you're a business owner.
Oh, yes, you are.
No, because it doesn't click into it. Like, well, I'm an investor. Well, yes, but you're running a business in the background. There's a lot of work. So let's go into your family life because I know we've had actually before we go into that, one of the things that we've worked on, and this is something common with my clients, is there are things that are holding us back from the past. Sometimes it's the way that we're conditioned to think, it's the way that we're conditioned to feel. We've gone through a lot of exercises that kind of help you process that better and assign a different meaning. And there was a time where you didn't want to go into the office because a lot of your work was in construction in your business, and that didn't feel normal to you. But now you don't want to go back into construction. And that shift, that mindset shift in your experience had to happen. But do you feel like that was a process that came about coaching to help you create that identity shift?
Yes, for sure. Like I said before, the many beliefs, just things that were conditioned as a kid. Our parents used to say, work hard, save your money, work, 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 work. And then that's how I was in my business. I would work for my business and not on my business. So to this day, it's still difficult. My wife actually works in the field still, and she's just, she's in the office also. So it's, again, one of those things we talked about earlier about, working with your wife. But, for me, owning a construction business and also investing in real estate, it's given me almost no choice but to be in the office. There's so many things going on right now. I have to be here. And I've been accustomed to being here now that a couple of days ago, I went on a job, and just to see the job, to order materials, I felt out of place. And I caught myself and I'm like, okay, we've definitely changed. We've definitely changed.
Yeah, definitely. And now you're at a point where you're starting to let go of a lot of the things. And this is a mindset that a lot of business owners, because when you're starting business, you do everything. You do the sales, you do marketing, you are in the operation, you're in the even day-to-day stuff. You're kind of the worker and the business owner. But as a business owner, you're running an organization, you're running a system. At some point, that stepping back and working on the business, looking at it from the outside, it becomes very difficult because you've kind of built this thing on your own in the beginning, in a sense. And now you're having to let go of control. And most entrepreneurs will struggle with that part. Even some of the more successful entrepreneurs that I know, they get very good at their marketing and lead generation systems. They're still the bottleneck. And here they might still grow. Yeah. And when you watch their experience, because they're a bottleneck, they're not growing as fast as they could be. They're not scaling because every decision needs to come through them. And on top of that, what ends up happening is in their experience, they're incredibly stressed out because they're constantly, instead of actually working on the strategy, vision, and setting up the bigger things, they're constantly trying to figure out what their employees or contractors and other people are up to, their team members are up to. It's like micromanaging pretty much everybody.
Mhm.
And I've also seen the other side of like some amazing entrepreneurs who understand the organizational side of it. Yeah, I've seen this happen in real time where I've had a conversation with these bigger contracts that I'm a part of with this business owner. I've had one conversation when they see the value of what we're offering. They're like, hey, my CEO is going to take care of that. And he assigns it. And because they have built a culture, the CEO assigns it to a different one. By the time we've gone through a journey with them and we're creating a common agreement and we're serving their clients, we've dealt with 4 or 5 of their team members. And the original owner doesn't even know what's happening. He knows the overall. And as he starts to see, because he's experimenting, is this going to actually move my business forward or not? And when he starts to see, or she starts to see that it's having an effect on their clients, positive effect on the clients and the bottom line, now they pay more attention to it. Now they're like, okay, let's get them more involved. And I've seen that in action. It's beautiful. The owner doesn't even know that his business is getting better. It's like such, and essentially that's what an entrepreneur is. You're creating a system that runs itself.
Mhm.
Hard thing to do, and you're in that process of building that. So would you say that you've begun to go in that direction where you're thinking about letting go of a lot of the stuff in the business, getting to focus on more high levels?
Yeah, for sure. That's the goal ultimately, is to just oversee everything. So that's what we're striving towards.
Awesome. Awesome. Love that. And let's go a little bit into, I know you mentioned, because one of the things that I've noticed, part of it was stress, but I've also noticed your energy has shifted a lot. I still remember you used to get on a call with me, and one of the first things you would say is like, "Oh my God, life is hard. This is what's happening. This is what's happening." You don't do that anymore. I don't even have to say it. It's like, I do ask, "What are you excited about?" Even when I used to ask, I've asked the same question probably how many sessions now? At least 50 plus sessions.
Oh yeah.
Tip. How are you doing? What are you excited about? You used to jump into, oh my God, business. This is what's happening. That's what's wrong. This is what's wrong. And I had to kind of keep bringing you back. Okay, I understand that. Thank you for sharing. What are you actually excited about? And it would take you about a good 6 to 10 minutes to get there. But now I don't have to do it. That's a huge shift. And that doesn't mean that the problems have stopped. The challenges have stopped. It's just
Well,
that
they're still there.
orientation is different. What do you think happened there? Like your energy is so different.
Yeah, I mean, it's just now I'm trying to focus on, our mutual saying, it's only business. That's what problems here or there. I mean, I'm not the only one going through these problems in business. There are people that have bigger problems than me and some not so. So for me, it's just focusing on the end goal. I'm always got the end goal in sight. Just rolling with the punches. We're in business. We're in real estate. It's not perfect. Whoever says you're going to be a millionaire in a year in real estate, let me tell you something, follow me. It may happen. It may happen, but let me tell you, it's a journey and there's bumps in the road. So just bumps in the road, gotta keep driving. And that's what I tell myself, which is we have to keep going, keep going.
So what that tells me, your self-talk has shifted.
A lot. Yes, a lot.
And what does that help? How does that help you in your experience? You feel like you're more focused on gratitude. You feel like you're more focused on the positive aspects of your life and business versus,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, journaling every day. I mean, 98% of the time I journal every morning. That helps just to, again, count your blessings, gratitude, write down your goals. So when a problem comes, you're like, oh, well, this is just part of the process to get where I need to go, and just being grateful for what you have. I tend to forget that sometimes. And my wife tends to remind me of where I've come from, what we have. You know, sometimes we tend to look at the people that have more than us and feel envy. But then you look back from where you were 5 years ago, where you have, you're like, not such a bad spot. So that's where your mindset changes.
I completely agree. And I love, because a lot of people might not think much of that, but our day-to-day experience matters a lot. Like if you're spending most of, and this is something that's that hustle culture that has been kind of brought into, is like, well, I'm always hustling. And it depends on what people mean, but the general, what people mean is that if I'm stressed out, that means I'm doing good. I don't think that's the right way of living life. I mean, think about it from a quality perspective. Like if I'm in my work and I'm not excited, I'm not connected, I'm not purposeful. Yes, there are stressors there. That's a normal part of life. I don't want to admit that. But if I make my whole identity as an entrepreneur who's stressed out entrepreneur, I bring that in every part of my life. And that's what business owners often do, is they take that in their family. They take that because they're always stressed out. It becomes more of a habit, even if there aren't any stressors there. So for
Mm.
me, at least personally, my values around that is that regardless of what's happening, I want to enjoy my work. I want to feel purposeful. I want to feel fulfilled. I care about the work that I do. I want to feel like I'm growing consistently within what I'm doing. And I spend a good 8 to 10 hours, 4 days a week, like in my office. And if I'm not fulfilled by this time, like that's a good chunk of my time. What's the energy I'm taking to my family? And this is now thinking about those who have businesses or who are going into business or any kind of life. It's very hard to separate how you show up in one space from another. Yes, we have certain differences, but the energy that we carry in one space will show up. Because I remember there was a time when I used to hate my job and I couldn't stand it. I would bring up, no matter how much like I would be aware of, like, I don't want to bring my work and stuff in there. I would be stressed out. I would be in constant frustration mode. and I'll bring that energy. So what kind of energy when I'm done here? What kind of energy I'm bringing with my girls, with my daughters, with my wife? That makes a huge difference. And that makes a huge difference in the quality of your experience. And plus, just how much of our time is spent in work? Like, why do you want to hate that? What are your thoughts about that?
No, I think about that a lot. I mean, and, I tell my kids the same thing. They're getting older. So, what do you want to do for a living? And they want to do ABC. I mean, as long as you like what you're doing, that's the most important thing. Even me, as a younger child, I don't care what I do. If it pays, the money's there. But being wealthy and miserable is not fun either. So you have to like what you do. I mean, for me, I like doing what I do as far as my construction business. It's I'm changing that. I'm trying to pivot in a different direction with my construction, but real estate, I love it. I mean, it's, a lot of people in my surrounding, oh, I want to be an investor. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy going out to see buildings and such. So I guess, liking what you do is a big part of it. You have to.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And also part of coaching is really for me as a coach is to help you see your strengths, to help you see certain things that you might not see yourself. A lot of times it's very obvious for others to see it, especially if it's a coach who is in like, I want to know what you're really good at. I want to know what matters to you. And there's actually a whole field of coaching is based on strength finder. And one of my coaches, she's actually in that. She's really good at that. But really, for me, one of the things I've noticed that you've had this superpower around connecting with people. That's not normal because to you, your experience looks normal. But if I'm looking at like 100 different people, maybe 1 in 100 people might have that skill, or 1 in 1,000 people might have that. And do you think that has helped you to notice that part of you more, to go more in a direction of growth in your business, start to notice on that strength and amplify that?
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I've never thought of that as a superpower. I've just been the way I've been. I've heard my mom say that, as a child, I would make friends with everyone. We'd go to the beach and my mom couldn't find me. I'd be with the lifeguard in his tower, talking to the lifeguard and make friends everywhere I go. And that was just me. It's like to make friends where I go. And as me and you started talking, and I realized that, yeah, not everyone's like that. I mean, I see people that I would think that, oh my God, if I had their looks, their clothes, whatever, I could just, be on stage. And I'm like, and I see them and they're petrified of talking to someone one on one. For me, I can't understand that, but that's just the way I am. So it definitely brought more attention to that than I ever thought.
Yeah, I guess I see the value of that because I was one of those people who was petrified of talking to people one on one. So
Yeah.
like to you, it's so normal. That's why it's so amazing for me because it took me years to get to a point where I can connect with people based on who I am. And there was so much work that was done there. But then I watch you and some of my other clients, they are like natural at it. I'm like, oh, how the hell do you do this shit? And it's like you have a gift and a superpower, but you don't notice it because it's normal to you. And until somebody's seen the value of it, they don't know. Like there are a lot of things we take for granted in our life. And a lot of some of those are in our environment. A lot of those are inside of us. And this is why I annoy the hell out of my family members when they talk about lottery tickets. And sometimes I'll tell them like, did you know that your lottery ticket, are you going to buy it or not? That's my response normally. But like the truth is, and for those who, if you haven't read this book, The Alchemist, and did you read that book by the way?
No, I haven't read it
Pick
yet.
up that book. That needs to be The Alchemist. Beautiful story around like we go everywhere to look for, like you said, what people have this ability, that ability. We try to compare, but that's not us. Like we have a quote in our watch with my wife got it. Let me see what it says. It says something along the lines of be yourself, everyone else is taken.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Every time I look at that, I'm like, you know what? I spent a good part of my life trying to be other people. Now I'm beginning to even understand who I am deep down. And I think that's a lifelong journey. But as soon as you start to get who you are at your core, at your soul, it starts to shift how you show up in the world. You stop to compare yourself because you know that you're unique, you're different, and you're similar like other human beings, but you have certain unique qualities to you that others might not. I think that's a big part of at least my type of coaching is to help people understand who they are deep down. So one last thing I want to go into is your kids, your relationships. I know you have two daughters and you care deeply about how they are, and you have other family members like your sister, you care about them, but specifically your daughters as well, because I know we've had lengthy conversations about that. Do you feel like coaching has impacted your relationship with them?
Yes, it has. Just to sometimes take things and implement them in a different way, just the way you approach them sometimes. I mean, I have two teenage daughters in this day and age, so it's like talking to a robot sometimes. So you'll see. So it's just, every generation has their thing. So, you know, getting to their level sometimes can be quite difficult. So definitely coaching is sometimes we tend to snap more at our kids than anything else. So now it's just to take a back step and just ease into a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of the times we don't realize that we need to be, because the generation we come from, like part of it is generational gap, and part of it is what's actually happening in their world. Because what they grow up in, and like a lot of the kids, what they're growing up in, it's so drastically different than what I
Mhm.
grew up in. Like most of my time was outside. Like I was, it might have been different from your experience. You were at I'm imagining you were at farms and construction. All that stuff was
Yep.
part
I live in
of life.
Canada. Yeah.
For me, I was born in Afghanistan and I grew up in Pakistan, but similar cultures, but different. I spent a lot of my time on rooftops. I had pigeons. Uh, they were free pigeons, but they were my pets. I started with two and I had 20 something pigeons after a while. The most amazing thing, they actually come back and they are like your pets, but they're free to be however they want. And I did kite flying much of my life. I used to build kites. I used to build the thread, the color of the thread. I used to build other stuff. I used to play in the mud. I used to go biking. That was a big part of my life. Yeah, we would still watch TV here and there, but it wasn't screens constantly. It was a lot of our time was outside. Now looking at the world, even for us now, like there's screens are very dominant in our life.
Mhm.
But imagine growing up with that. That's all the experience that you know. And it becomes very hard for parents to like, how would I, especially if you haven't gone through the experience, how would I navigate that? And then a lot of times what you hear, well, they're just teenagers. No, they're not just teenagers. We need to be a little bit empathetic to their experience and find out like how can we relate in some way and get them to connect with us regardless of experience.
Yeah, no, it's definitely scary at times. I was just like you, biking, hunting in the woods, building tree houses and whatnot. And, screens were once in a while watch TV. Now, like you said, the screens everywhere. We weren't raised like that. And I see it's addicting. It's the thing for us, and we're in our mid to late 40s. It's imagine a young teenager. It's easy for them to get on that and stay on.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why we try to push them to do more outdoor stuff. So it's the process.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go into one last thing. If you were to kind of describe overall, like the biggest thing with coaching that has made a difference tangibly for you, what would you say if you were to pick one point or two?
Oh my God. How to explain this? It would be I guess my outlook on life/business, the way I deal with things, the way I deal with stressful events, just a different looking at life in a different eye. You know, that's how I could best describe it. I mean, I could go on and on, but in a
Yeah.
in short, that would be what it is.
Yeah. And I love that. What I hear there is that you're able to look at your life from a bigger perspective lens. It's not just your singular lens, but you can step back from your life, and how you handle life is what I hear is more intentional versus more reactive. Would you say that?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Just goal setting, journaling, all that stuff kind of opens your mind to the possibilities. Even the small things. It's the steps. It's the steps.
Yeah, definitely. So would you recommend coaching for other business owners, other investors, multifamily investors, or anybody? And would you recommend me as a coach?
Yes, recommend coaching because I think we all need it. You know, whatever you're in, I think everyone needs coach. Call it a coach, call it a teacher, call it a mentor. We all need someone to help us, guide us. I've been sober 22 years now, and I recommend that therapy to everyone. Alcoholic, druggie or not, it opens another portal. We all need some sort of the coaching. Just let someone see that there's something else out there. We have these small blockages that, oh my God, I can't do this because of this. And then, through your questions and exercises, it's like, well, you can't do this because just this little thing that's blocking you, and then you unlock that, and then the floodgates open. There's other possibilities that come from that. So, and then as far as you, for sure, because again, I've had a bad experience with a coach, so I was reluctant to commit. At first, we had some talks about that. So, you know, me and you, I think we connected right away. You understand the struggles. We've all had struggles. You understand a lot of mine. So for me, it was just the connection. I mean, there's a there's a lot of coaches out there, so I'm sure there's a coach to fit everybody. But as far as you've been great with me, my wife and her college struggles. And even I think you even talked to my kids at some point. So it's not. I see and I feel it's not all about financial gain, and that's not how. The beginning for business with me is financial gain, but when you're doing something to help someone, to better someone else, then you ultimately better yourself. And that's what this showed me also, that, stop looking about the money, give, give, and then it will come back. And that's how I think I can see that in you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then I really want to thank you for your trust in me and trusting me with your whole family, not just you. So, that means a lot. And also, I really want to celebrate you because you've become a better leader in your home. You've become a better leader in your business. And for me, that's my big vision, is to connect with leaders who actually care about where they are and who they are, their identity, how they impact their family, their organization, the people around them. Because once we start to become intentional, a lot of people look for politicians and bigger governments to make a difference, but it starts with our home, it starts with our businesses, it starts within our community. And when my belief is that if everybody does their part, then we don't need a lot of outside bigger help. In fact, they will get more aligned with how people are. And most of the challenge is that we are not taught any of this stuff. We are not taught how to be better leaders. We're not taught how to be better fathers, better mothers, better human beings. It's just a part of, like, passively part of different things, but that's not the aim of the education system. That's not the aim of most of the systems that we're part of. And that's one of the reasons why I was struggling as a young man for years. I'm like, how come that was not part of my education system? How come coaching like this was not part of my education system? And now there are coaches, there are mentors, there are people who are going out there in the education system, whether it's on the financial side or it's on the life side or relationship side. We're starting to see the bigger root causes of the problem. And as soon as we help build better leaders, I think the world is going to go towards a positive direction. It sounds like a dream and a cliche thing, but I've seen the differences in people's lives when you start to shift things. When people start to live more happily, more fulfilled, more connected, they start to support their customers and clients and employees better, the world naturally shifts towards positive. And it's not something new that I've figured out. This has been said by some of the best leaders. It's like Confucius said that from China, but the health of the empire depends on the health of the family. Like, when families start to go the wrong direction, the empire collapses eventually. And he's seen that happen enough times. All you have to do is study history. You will know that eventually governments, empires, countries collapse because there were problems that were started within the smallest unit, which is the family. And I really want to thank you for being on that journey, because you're not just helping your own world, but you're helping humanity. You're helping the future of your kids. You're helping so many other things as you do this work. And for me, it means a lot. So I really want to appreciate you on that. And I'm excited to see how you grow and support other people as you move forward.
Same here. Same here. It's definitely a journey that we will continue.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So for those who are listening to this, make sure you like this and share with anybody around you, like a friend, mentor, a colleague, a sibling, or anybody that you think is struggling. Like I had a client in the past. I was talking to Sydney. She did this conversation the first time. She had a friend and that they had been talking to in their group for a long time. Is like, hey, listen, you have a lot more potential. You need to quit your job. And they were talking to him for months. He had one session with me, one conversation. He ended up giving his 2 weeks.
Like,
It's, there's a specific skill set that goes into coaching. It's like we're not just talking. We're not just having a simple conversation. There's a direction that we're taking clients towards. You might not be the right person to coach your spouse or your son or your colleague or somebody else. A lot of people are wearing multiple hats. They're business owners, but they're also coaches for their employees. Doesn't work. It takes a lot of bandwidth. Or they're in a relationship, but they're also coach to their person. I can bet you, as soon as you get support for the people around you, you will start to feel better, and you'll notice that that weight on your shoulders starts to feel like it's relaxing. So this is for you to understand that you investing in your life and your business and the people around you will make it probably give you the best ROI than anything else. And definitely share this, and we'll continue this conversation. And until my next video, hope you have an incredible day. Bye.
bye, guys.